You've built something useful. Maybe it's 3 nodes, maybe it's 30. Either way, the DNA of Runchat is that any workflow, even a few nodes, can be turned into a reusable building block, a tool that you and your teammates drop into other workflows, or a simple app that someone else can use without ever touching the node editor. That's what this video is about, 2 different ways to share the same workflow and when you'd use each one. So here's what I'm working with, 3 nodes, a reference image of an illustration from my studio that I want to copy onto other images, a reference image that I would like to style transfer to look like this other image, and then a target node that has a prompt that tries to apply the illustration style from this image to the input image. If I run it, I get my target image restyled to match the reference. Simple, but pretty useful. And I could see myself doing this a fair bit. So let's publish this because I think I'm going to need to restyle a lot of images like my firm's hero illustration. The first way to share is to publish as a tool. A tool is a reusable node that lives in Runchat right alongside the agent, create, and code nodes. Once you publish it, you can drag it into any other workflow and use it as a single node, even though there's a whole mini workflow running underneath. If I go to add nodes and I scroll all the way down, you can see a number of tools that are provided by default. So you can see we've already given a few default tools for stuff like reading and writing to Google Sheets, for doing a lot of search, simple stuff like routing and managing lists in more advanced ways. When I publish this, it will show up as a tool in here and be available to my team. To publish it, I select the 3 nodes and then I will click publish as a reusable node, which shows up in the selection toolbar at the top. If I click this, I'm shown the publish overlay, which gives me some control. So let's go through these one by one. I will give it a name. So it'll be called Studio Illustration Style. I'll give it a description. So without a description, we can now publish some inputs. Now it's a little bit hard to see, but I did rename the input image earlier, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So the input image is the main thing that we want to have as an input, which will change this image here. And the output we're going to select is media, which is what is generated by the create node. As a thumbnail, I think we can leave the hero so it's easy to see in future. We can add a tag and we can also add it to a library. I'm going to create a new library called Studio Tools. So it tells us an credit estimate for this node that will be created. And we also have the ability to publish this node. So let's go ahead and publish it. And we have the option to view this node in the dashboard. So one thing to mention is that it really matters what you add as a description when creating tools, because the Runchat agent will also have access to all the tools you've created, and a helpful description will help the agent decide if it's a tool that it should use depending on what you're trying to do. So if I search now in the node picker, my tool shows up alongside the other tools in Runchat, and I could drag it into any workflow now, and it behaves like a single node. So this is the thing that I'd like you to internalize. Every tool you publish adds a new building block to your workspace. Your workflows compound. A tool you build today becomes part of a bigger workflow tomorrow. That bigger workflow itself can become a tool. It's how you go from simple experiments to a real library of capabilities over time. And remember the tools we added to agents in a previous video? Your own published tools work the same way. Your agents get smarter every time you build something new. Just to run through this, we set this input image and we have an output. Just going through the UI of this Runchat node, you can edit this Runchat by selecting this button. So this will open the flow, and in here you can make changes to this and you can save and update those changes. You can also expand the node. You do have to run it first before you can expand it, but that will basically just like open up these 3 nodes in whatever workflow you're working on, in the case that you wanted to customize the internal workings of this tool as a one-off change. The other thing you can do is you can edit the Runchat, which will bring you back to this workflow, and you can make adjustments and republish them. And so if I was to provide a different image, such as this one, I can now run this. Now, there's a second way to share. So tools are for people who use Runchat, your teammate, your agents, yourself in future workflows. But if you want to give this to someone who doesn't use Runchat at all, like a client or a designer on your team, someone who just wants to upload 2 images or an image and get a result, that's what apps are for. In order to make this an app that anyone can use, you can make this workflow public. And to do that, you can see in the top here that there is an eye symbol. This icon indicates that right now this is a private app and it's private to our team. So anyone using it would need to be signed in and a member of the team to see this or use it. We'll make it public so that this workflow can be used by anyone. Let's make it out. In order to do that, we need to set the inputs and outputs that we would like to make available to others. So we definitely want this to be changeable by users so we can publish this input parameter. So if we hover the parameter, we could see that this is currently called input image. I'm just going to call it image, and then I'm going to hit this publish button. So the publishing button will make this visible in the little app that we're building. I can add some details here for any user who's trying to use my app. Similarly, we also want to set an output. So we're going to select the media here and let's call it output. So that changes the name of that. And then we also need to publish this parameter. So we have two parameters that are published in this workflow, and the app will show you an image. It will show the description for this image input, and then it will show you the output. And then in the menu at the top left, if you go down to share, there's this ability to preview an app. And so this is what the app will look like for others. You can run the app yourself, you can open it, and you can see that there's like an input and an output here. So I'm going to open this app. If I wanted to share this app, I would just copy the URL for it, and then I can give it to anyone in my team or anyone publicly, since we made this workflow public. And then in order to change this and use it, you would replace this file and then run this, and it would give you the output of the generated media that matches the style of our Studio's hero image. Again, like this is how I would share a useful workflow with a teammate. I'd publish it as a tool if I want to use it internally, and I'd publish it as an app so that any teammate can use it without learning anything about Runchat. It's the same workflow, two different audiences, and not much extra work. So a little bit more housekeeping. In the top left in the menu, you can save a copy of your workflow. This is perfect when you want to try something risky or experiment without losing what's already working. And then there's also a show history panel, and this will show all previous kind of edits that we've made. So if your changes go sideways, you can roll back to an earlier state. Nothing you do is permanently lost. So now you've seen how to get around the editor, how the agent and create building blocks work, how to run nodes, read credits, how to connect things together, how to make controlled edits to images, and now how to share what you build. So Runchat isn't really about building a single clever workflow. It's about building your own library of tools and apps over time. Every workflow you publish is a building block or a mini app for someone in your team. Start small, publish often, and your workspace gets more powerful every week.